I remember the exact weight of $3,000, not in my hands, I never held it long enough to feel its weight, but in my chest, where it sat like a stone every month when the transfer went through. $3,000. My salary, my effort, my name on the paycheck, but never my choice where it went. People talk about love like it's supposed to feel warm. They use words like comfort, safety, home. But nobody tells you that sometimes love feels like holding your breath underwater, convincing yourself that the burning in your lungs is just part of learning to swim. I met Rajesh during my final year of college. He was already working then, confident in a way that made my quietness feel like something that needed fixing. He'd talk about his mother with this reverence that made me think, this is a man who knows how to love. This is a man who understands loyalty. I thought that was beautiful. I didn't know yet that some people measure love like currency, and that loyalty can be a cage dressed up as devotion. We married 6 months after I graduated, a small ceremony, mostly his family's choices. His mother selected my sari, red and gold, heavy enough that I felt myself disappearing under its weight. She chose the menu, the venue, even the playlist for the reception. When I suggested one song my father loved, she smiled and said, "Beta, let's keep things traditional. Your father will understand." He did understand. He always did. My father stood at the edge of that wedding hall, watching me with eyes that held something I couldn't name then, something between blessing and warning. He held my face before the ceremony and said, "If anything, anything at all, you call me. You understand?" I nodded, smiling, convinced he was being overly protective, convinced that I was entering a partnership, not a performance. The first month after marriage, I was still working at the marketing firm where I'd interned during college. They'd offered me a permanent position, junior associate, nothing glamorous, but mine, $3,000 a month. In our city, it wasn't wealth, but it was dignity. It was proof that 4 years of education meant something. Rajesh made 4,000. He'd remind me of this often, not cruelly, but as a fact that needed acknowledgement. "I'm the primary earner," he'd say while I cooked dinner, my laptop balanced on the kitchen counter so I could finish a presentation. "But we're a team. What's yours is ours." It sounded fair. It sounded like marriage. His mother, Ma, as I was expected to call her, lived 20 minutes away in a 3-bedroom apartment that Rajesh paid half the rent for. His younger brother Vikram still lived with her, unemployed, but always looking for the right opportunity. Ma was a widow, and Rajesh carried that responsibility like a badge of honor. "She sacrificed everything for us," he'd say. "It's my duty to give back." I understood duty. I was raised on it. My parents taught me that respect flows upward like water seeking its source. But they also taught me that marriage was about building something new, a third entity that wasn't just his family or mine, but ours. The first time Rajesh asked for my salary, it was almost romantic. We were lying in bed, his hand absently tracing patterns on my arm. "I've been thinking," he said, "about combining our finances. It would be easier, you know. One account, one budget, no complications." I hesitated. Something in my chest pulled tight. "I was thinking I could contribute to household expenses," I said carefully. "Maybe 1,500 and keep the rest for emergencies or savings for—" "Savings," he laughed, not unkindly. "Baby, that's what I'm talking about. We save together. We plan together. You don't trust me with money?" The question was a trap dressed as vulnerability. If I said no, I was calling him irresponsible. If I said yes but still wanted my own account, I was the one being untrustworthy. "Of course I trust you," I said. Within a week, my salary was being deposited into his account. Our account, he called it. But his name was first. His email got the notifications. His fingerprint unlocked the banking app. "See," he said, showing me the balance after my first deposit. "Isn't this better? Now I can manage everything. You just focus on your work and home. Let me handle the stress of finances." It sounded like care. It felt like disappearing. The grocery budget was $200 a month. I noticed this in the second month when I went shopping and the cashier told me my card was declined. I called Rajesh from the store, embarrassed, checking each item in my cart. Oh, you probably hit the weekly limit, he said. I set up spending caps, to keep us on track. Just put some things back. I looked at my cart. Eggs, bread, milk, apples, chicken, rice. Nothing excessive, nothing luxury. I put back the apples and the chicken. We ate lentils that week and the week after. My body started craving protein with an urgency that kept me awake at night. When I mentioned it to Rajesh, he shrugged. We all have to make sacrifices. Ma's been struggling with her grocery bills too. I've been helping her out. Of course he had. Of course. I got pregnant 4 months into our marriage. The test showed positive on a Tuesday morning, and I sat on our bathroom floor staring at those 2 pink lines, feeling terror and joy wrestling in my throat. I called my mother first. She cried happy tears and immediately started making plans to visit. I told Rajesh that evening. He smiled, hugged me, then immediately called his mother. "Ma, you're going to be a grandmother." His voice carried through the apartment, pride and joy mixing with something else. Ownership, maybe. Yes, I'll bring her by this weekend. She should start eating properly now. You can tell her what she needs. He didn't ask what I needed. He didn't ask how I felt. He told me what would happen next. Ma was overjoyed, but her joy came with instructions. I should eat more ghee. I should stop working so much. I should avoid stress, which apparently meant I should let go of any opinions about my own pregnancy. She gave me a list of foods to avoid, exercises to do, prayers to recite. Your mother coddles you too much, she said when I mentioned that my mother had different advice. That's why you're so thin. You need a strong constitution to carry a son. I wasn't thin, I was normal, but after 6 months of reduced grocery budgets, my clothes were starting to hang differently. The pregnancy was not easy. I had severe nausea for the first 4 months, the kind that made me vomit up even water. I'd call in sick to work, apologizing to my supervisor, terrified I'd lose my job. Rajesh would leave for work while I was still in bed, unable to move without the room spinning. You need to push through it, he'd say, not quite irritated, but not quite sympathetic. My mother worked in the fields when she was pregnant. Women are stronger than we think. I wasn't in a field. I was in a small apartment, alone, trying to will my body to cooperate, wondering why strength always meant suffering in silence. My mother came to stay for 2 weeks during my worst phase. She took one look at the refrigerator and asked me where the food was. Rajesh does the shopping, I said. He's managing our budget. She didn't say anything, but she went out that afternoon and came back with bags of groceries, real food, protein, vegetables, fruit. She cooked chicken soup that made me cry, not because it was particularly emotional, but because I'd forgotten what it felt like to be nourished. Rajesh came home to the smell of cooking and frowned. "This must have been expensive," he said. "I paid for it," my mother said simply. She wasn't confrontational, she was just clear. My daughter needs to eat properly. He didn't argue with her directly, but after she left, he said, "You know how that made me look? Like I can't provide for my own wife? Your mother shouldn't have done that." I apologized. I actually apologized for being fed. When Mira was born, I thought everything would change. I thought becoming parents together would shift something fundamental, remind us that we were building a life, not just maintaining his mother's comfort and his pride. She was born on a rain-soaked morning in July, screaming her way into the world with fists clenched and eyes tightly shut. The pain of labor was nothing compared to the feeling of holding her, this creature made of me, of us, of possibility. I counted her fingers, traced the curve of her ear, and promised her everything I had. Rajesh's mother came to the hospital before my own parents, taking Mira from my arms with practiced authority. "She has Rajesh's nose," she declared, "and his father's forehead. She's a proper mahocha." I didn't say that she had my eyes and my hands. I didn't say that she was half me. I just watched as my daughter was introduced to the world as someone else's belonging. The first 3 months of Mira's life blurred together, a haze of sleepless nights, feeding schedules, and the constant low-grade panic of new motherhood. I was back at work after 6 weeks, my maternity leave cut short because we couldn't afford for me to take unpaid time off, even though my salary continued being deposited into our account. I'd pump breast milk in the office bathroom, storing it in a small cooler bag, rushing home during lunch when I could. Mira stayed with a neighbor during the day, an older woman who charged $20 per day. Reasonable, kind even, but it meant 2/3 of my salary now went to childhood. I didn't know where the rest went. I stopped asking. Rajesh's mother visited weekly, always with opinions. Mira was too thin. I wasn't producing enough milk. I should try traditional remedies. I should stop stressing. The contradictions didn't seem to bother her. I was simultaneously doing too much and not enough. "You need to understand," Rajesh said one evening after his mother left, "that she's trying to help. She raised 2 children on her own. She knows what she's doing." "So do I," said quietly. Too quietly. It was easier to speak in whispers than to fight. "Don't be sensitive," he replied, already turning toward his phone. Mira was 7 months old when I noticed the formula was running out faster than it should. We were supplementing now. My milk supply had dropped with the stress and exhaustion. I checked the account balance on Rajesh's phone one evening while he was in the shower. The formula was expensive, $40 a can, but we had enough. We should have had enough. Except the account showed a transfer of $500 to his mother the previous week, another $300 the week before that. When I asked about it, he didn't even look up from his dinner. "Ma needed help with some bills," he said. "Her rent went up." "But Mira has what she needs. Don't be dramatic." I looked at my daughter, asleep in her bassinet, her face peaceful in a way I couldn't remember feeling. I wanted to scream. Instead, I ate my lentils and said nothing. The thing about slow erosion is that you don't notice it happening. A coastline doesn't disappear in a day. It loses grain after grain, wave after wave, until one day you look up and realize the landscape has fundamentally changed. That's what happened to me. I didn't lose myself all at once. I lost myself in increments so small they seemed insignificant. A choice here, a voice there, a boundary that felt too small to defend. By the time Mira turned 1, I was a shadow. I went to work, came home, cooked, cleaned, fed my daughter, and slept in whatever hours remained. I didn't see friends anymore. I didn't paint, though I'd loved it in college. I didn't read anything that wasn't work-related. I didn't exist beyond my functions. Rajesh seemed content with this arrangement. His life hadn't changed much. He still went out with friends on Fridays. He still bought new clothes when he wanted them. He still maintained his hobbies, cricket matches on weekends, the occasional concert. When I once asked if I could take a painting class on Saturday mornings, he looked at me like I'd suggested something absurd. "Who'll watch Mira?" he asked. "You?" I offered. "Baby, Saturdays are my only time to decompress. You know how hard I work." I worked too. I worked the same 40-hour weeks, plus all the work that didn't count as work, the cooking, cleaning, mothering, managing, but apparently that work didn't earn me the right to decompress. I stopped asking for things. It was easier. My father called every Sunday, like clockwork, noon exactly. He'd ask about Mira, about work, about life. I'd tell him everything was fine, good even. I'd learned to perform happiness with the same skill I'd learned to perform the perfect daughter-in-law. "You sound tired," he'd say sometimes, his voice carrying that same something I'd seen at my wedding, concern wrapped in restraint. "I am tired, Papa. New motherhood is tiring, but I'm happy." The lie tasted like ash. "If you need anything—" "I know, Papa. I'll call." I never did. Mira started saying words around 13 months. Mama came first, then Dada, then a garbled version of Grandma that made Rajesh's mother beam with pride. Every milestone was documented, shared, celebrated by everyone else's standards of what mattered. But I was the one who noticed the smaller things. The way Mira would reach for my face when she was tired, how she'd snuggle into my neck and sigh, the way her fingers would twist in my hair while she drank her bottle. These moments were mine. They were the only things that felt entirely mine. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a Tuesday in October, unseasonably warm. I'd taken the day off work because Mira had a slight fever. Nothing serious, just a mild cold, but the daycare wouldn't take her. Rajesh left for work early, an important meeting he couldn't miss. I spent the morning with Mira, reading her favorite books, singing songs, trying to get her to eat something. She'd barely eaten the day before, and she'd refused breakfast. I gave her water, juice, tried mashed bananas. She turned her head away from everything. Around noon, my father called. Papa, actually, can I call you back? Mira's not feeling well, and I'm downstairs, he said. My heart stopped. What? I'm parked outside your building. I was in the city for a meeting, thought I'd drop by. Can I come up? I looked around the apartment, dishes in the sink, toys scattered, laundry unfolded. I looked down at myself, yesterday's clothes, hair unwashed, exhaustion visible in every line of my face. Of course, I said, come up. I buzzed him in and spent the next 3 minutes in a panic, trying to make the apartment look less like the disaster it was. I shoved toys into baskets, piled dishes in the sink, ran my fingers through my hair. When he knocked, I opened a door with a smile that felt like it might crack my face. My father stood in the doorway with his briefcase in one hand and a bag of what I knew would be treats in the other. He took one look at me, really looked, and something shifted in his expression. Beta, he said softly, stepping inside. What's happening here? Nothing, Papa. Everything's fine. Mira just has a little cold. Come in. He set down his things and immediately went to Mira, who was lying on her playmat, listless and feverish. He picked her up gently, felt her forehead, looked into her eyes with the careful attention he'd given everything in his life. When did she last eat? He asked. She had some juice this morning. She's not very hungry when she's sick. Before that, when was her last proper meal? I hesitated. Yesterday afternoon, some rice and dal. That's over 20 hours ago. His voice was careful. Too careful. And she's how old now? 15 months? Almost 16. He carried Mira to the couch, cradling her with the ease of someone who'd raised children. What about formula? Milk? We ran out yesterday. Rajesh was supposed to pick some up, but he had that meeting this morning. I was going to go to the store later when she felt better. My father was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, You have a job. You earn money. Why don't you buy what your daughter needs? The question landed like a stone in still water, ripples spreading outward. I do, I said automatically. We share finances. It's easier that way. Where's your salary, Beta? In our account, joint account. Do you have access to it? The question was so simple. The answer was so complicated. Of course, I said. I can ask Rajesh whenever I need something. You have to ask your husband for permission to buy food for your daughter? It's not like that, Papa. It's about being a team, making decisions together. Where's the formula now? In the decision-making process? I didn't have an answer. My father stood up, still holding Mira. Get your shoes, he said. We're going to the store. Papa, really, it's fine. I can go later. Get your shoes. I'd heard that tone exactly twice in my life. Once when I was 7 and had run into traffic, and once when I was 16 and came home 2 hours past curfew. It was the tone that meant this wasn't a discussion. We drove to the supermarket in silence. He carried Mira while I pushed the cart, and he proceeded to fill it with everything a baby needed: formula, baby food, crackers, fruit, yogurt, juice. Then he moved to the regular aisles: rice, lentils, chicken, vegetables, eggs, milk. Real food, adult food. Papa, this is too much, I said as the cart filled. Really, we're okay. He didn't respond, just kept adding items. At the checkout, when the total came to over $200, he handed his card to the cashier without hesitation. Papa, please, you don't need to. I'm buying food for my daughter and granddaughter, he said simply. There's no debate here. We drove back to my apartment in the same silence. He helped me carry everything up, and then he sat on my couch and fed Mira small bites of banana while I put groceries away. She ate. Slowly, tiredly, but she ate. When did this start? He asked after Mira had eaten and was drowsing in his arms. When did what start? Don't insult my intelligence, Beta. When did you stop having enough food in your house? I couldn't look at him. I organized cans in the cabinet, my hands shaking slightly. It's not that we don't have food, it's just budgeting. We're trying to save. Rajesh is helping his mother with her expenses, and You earn $3,000 a month, my father said. His voice was still quiet, but something sharp had entered it. Your husband earns $4,000. That's $7,000 a month. You live in a modest apartment. You don't have a car payment. Your daughter's daycare is reasonable. Where does the money go? His mother needed help. Her rent increased. His brother is looking for work. It's family, Papa. You taught me about duty to family. I taught you about duty to your own family first, he said. The family you're building, your child, yourself. Marriage is about compromise. It's about partnership, not erasure. I finally turned to face him. He was looking at me with such sadness that it cracked something inside my chest. Papa, please don't make this bigger than it is. My granddaughter was hungry. My daughter looks like she hasn't slept in months. You're asking permission to buy food? How much bigger does it need to be? We both heard the key in the lock before the door opened. Rajesh came home earlier than expected, probably because his meeting ended sooner. He stopped when he saw my father. "Oh, sir, hello. I didn't know you were visiting." His voice was bright, professional, the voice he used for people who mattered. "Last-minute trip," my father said, standing slowly, still holding a sleeping Mira. Of course, of course. How long are you in the city? You should have called ahead. We could have made arrangements." "No arrangements needed. I just wanted to see my family." He paused, then said with deliberate casualness, "I noticed you were low on supplies. I picked up some groceries, formula, mostly, for the baby." Something flickered across Rajesh's face. "Oh, you didn't need to do that. I was planning to stop by the store later." The baby was hungry, seemed urgent. "Well, babies can be demanding. I'm sure my wife explained that we're on a budget, being responsible. You know how it is." "I do know," my father said. "That's why I'm confused. Your wife earns a good salary. Surely formula isn't beyond the budget." And there it was, the question hanging in the air like smoke. Rajesh laughed, but it was tight. "Well, it's not that simple, sir. We have other obligations, family responsibilities." "Your child is your family responsibility." Of course, but my mother, she's a widow, you know. I have to help her. It's my duty as a son." "And your duty as a father?" "Both, Rajesh-san," his smile hardening. "I balance both." My father handed Mira to me carefully, making sure she stayed asleep. Then he turned to Rajesh with the full weight of his attention. "Where does your wife's salary go?" he asked. "It goes into our account. We manage finances together." "Does she have access to this account?" "Of course she does. It's a joint account." "Can she transfer money without your permission?" A pause. Too long. "We discuss major expenses together. That's what partners do." "Is formula a major expense?" "Sir, with all due respect, I don't think our financial arrangements are—" "You earn $3,000, my father said to me, his eyes never leaving Rajesh. "Is that correct?" "Yes, Papa." "And where does that money go each month?" I looked between them, trapped. "Into our account." "And then where?" Rajesh's jaw tightened. "I manage the household expenses, the rent, utilities, savings." "And your mother's expenses," my father said. It wasn't a question. She needs help. "How much help?" "That's between me and my mother." "And your wife's salary? How much of that goes to your mother?" The room was so quiet I could hear Mira breathing against my shoulder. Rajesh pulled himself up straighter, and I recognized the gesture. It was the same one he used when he was about to say something he thought was admirable, something he was proud of. "Most of it," he said. "My mother sacrificed everything for me and my brother. She deserves to be comfortable now. My wife understands this. She agreed to it." I felt my father's eyes on me, but I couldn't meet them. "She agreed to her daughter going hungry?" "Nobody is going hungry. Don't be dramatic. We have food." "You had an empty refrigerator and a sick child with no formula." "That's a temporary situation. I would have bought more tonight." "With whose money?" "With my money." "With what I earn." "And what your wife earns? That's your mother's money?" "I gave her salary to my mother," Rajesh said, his voice rising slightly with what sounded like pride, Because she deserves it more. She raised me, she sacrificed. This is how we repay our parents, through duty and gratitude. The words hung in the air. He'd said them like they were righteous, like they were noble. My father stared at him for a long, long moment. Then he turned to me. "Get some rest," he said gently. "I'll come by tomorrow to check on Mira." "Papa?" "Tomorrow," he repeated. He kissed Mira's head, then mine. At the door, he paused and looked back at Rajesh. $7,000 a month, he said, and your child goes hungry while your mother's rent is paid. That's not duty, son. That's cruelty dressed up as virtue. He left before Rajesh could respond. The silence after the door closed was heavier than anything that had been said. "Your father has no right," Rajesh started. "He bought food for his granddaughter," I said quietly. Mira was stirring against my shoulder, disturbed by the tension. "That's all he did." "He made me look bad, like I don't provide." "Like I'm some kind of—" "Are you?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. "Providing, I mean, for your actual family?" His face darkened. "Don't you start. I work hard. I earn. I make sure we have a roof over our heads. With both our salaries. It's shared money. That's what marriage means. Does your mother know it's my salary?" He hesitated. "What difference does that make?" "Does she know?" "I told her I give her money. Where it comes from isn't—" "Does she know?" I asked again, louder now. Mira woke up, whimpering. I rocked her gently, but my eyes stayed on Rajesh. "I may have mentioned that I've increased my contributions, that I'm being a good son, using my money, our money, that I earned, that we earned together, as a family. God, why are you being like this? Your father comes here for one afternoon, and suddenly you're questioning everything?" "Our daughter was hungry," I said. The words came out flat, empty. "For 20 hours, she barely ate. We had no formula. I had no way to buy any because I don't have access to money I earned. That's not a question. That's a fact." One day of bad timing, and suddenly I'm the villain? "How many days?" I asked. "How many days has it been since I could buy something without asking you? How many days since I looked at a price tag and didn't feel panic? How many days since I felt like a person instead of a function?" "You're being emotional." "I'm being honest." "You agreed to this arrangement. You said—" "I trusted you," I said. "That's what I did. I trusted that we were partners, that we were building something together, that my work mattered, that my daughter would be taken care of. I trusted you." He stared at me, and I saw something in his face I'd never noticed before, or maybe I'd noticed it and chosen not to see. He wasn't angry. He was genuinely confused. He genuinely didn't understand why any of this was a problem. To him, he was being a good son. To him, he was fulfilling duty. To him, his mother's comfort was worth more than his wife's autonomy or his daughter's immediate needs, and he saw nothing wrong with this hierarchy. That realization was somehow worse than the anger would have been. "I'm going to put Mira to bed," I said. I walked to our bedroom, the room that never quite felt like mine, and closed the door. I fed Mira with some of the formula my father had bought, changed her diaper, sang her the lullaby my mother used to sing to me. When she finally slept, I lay next to her crib and cried as quietly as I could manage. My phone buzzed, a text from my father. "Sleep well, Beta. We'll talk tomorrow." I typed out, "I'm sorry," 3 times and deleted it each time. Finally, I just sent back a heart emoji. It was all I had. That night, lying in bed next to Rajesh, who had already fallen asleep like nothing significant had happened, I made a decision. Not a loud decision, not a dramatic one, just a small, quiet knowing that something had to change. I didn't know what yet, I didn't know how, but I knew that I couldn't keep disappearing. For Mira's sake, if not my own. The next morning, Rajesh left for work without mentioning the previous day. This was his pattern: pretend the uncomfortable conversation never happened, and eventually it would fade into the background noise of marriage. But this time, something was different. I was different. My father arrived at noon, just as Mira went down for her nap. He carried a manila folder, which he set on the coffee table before hugging me. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Tired," I said honestly. "Confused. I don't know." "That's honest. Good." He sat down and gestured for me to sit across from him. "I need to tell you some things, and I need you to listen without interrupting. Can you do that?" I nodded. "I'm not angry with you," he started. "I want to be clear about that, but I am furious at the situation you're in. Last night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about you at your wedding, how bright you looked, how much hope you carried. And I kept thinking about your face yesterday, exhausted, thin, scared to ask for basic things. That transformation didn't happen overnight. It happened gradually, and I'm angry at myself for not seeing it sooner." "Papa, it's not—" I said, "Listen," he reminded me gently. "There's a pattern here. It's called financial abuse, though I'm sure no one's used that term. Your husband isn't hitting you. He's not screaming at you. He might even believe he loves you, but he's taken away your autonomy, your access to resources you earned, your ability to make choices about your own life and your child's life. That is abuse." That word hit me like cold water. Abuse. That happened to other people, that happened in obvious ways, that came with bruises and police reports. "I know what you're thinking," my father continued. "You're thinking it's not that bad. He's not a monster. He's just traditional. His mother needs help. You're being too sensitive. Am I close?" Uncomfortably close. "I talked to your mother last night for 3 hours. We made some calls, did some research, and we've put together a plan. I'm not going to force you to do anything, but I'm going to offer you options, real options, the kind you haven't had in a long time." He opened the manila folder and pulled out several papers. "First," he said, "I've opened a bank account in your name only, at a different bank. Your name, your password, your fingerprint. Nobody else has access. Not me, not your mother, certainly not Rajesh. I've put $5,000 in it to start. That's your emergency fund, for you and Mira." I stared at the bank documents, my name printed clearly at the top. "Second, I've spoken to a friend who runs a marketing consultancy. They're looking for a senior associate. The salary is $4,500 a month, better benefits, more flexibility for remote work. If you want it, it's yours. Interview is just a formality. You'd start in 2 weeks. Papa, I can't just—" "Third," he continued, "your mother and I have looked at apartments near us. 2-bedroom, ground floor, small yard. Rent is $800 a month. We'll cover the deposit and first month's rent if you want it. After that, with your new salary, you can manage it independently. Mira's daycare would be nearby. Your mother could help when needed." "You want me to leave him?" "I want you to have choices," he corrected. "If you want to stay and try to fix this marriage, I'll support that. I'll even pay for couples counseling if you think it would help. But you need to negotiate from a position of strength, not desperation. You need to have resources that are yours. You need to know you can survive without him." I felt tears sliding down my face. "Everyone will say I gave up too easily, that I destroyed my marriage, that I'm selfish, that I'm not trying hard enough." "Everyone isn't feeding your daughter," my father said. "Everyone isn't watching her go hungry while her father sends money to his mother. Everyone isn't living your life. Their opinions are worth exactly nothing. His mother will hate me. She already doesn't respect you. What do you have to lose? Rajesh will fight this. Probably, but you're not doing anything illegal. You're getting a better job. You're making your own choices about your own money. He can fight all he wants. It won't change the facts." I looked at the papers spread on the table, a bank account, a job offer, an apartment listing. They looked like life rafts. They looked like possibility. They looked terrifying. "I need to think," I said. "Of course. Take the bank documents with you. The account is open. You don't have to use it, but it's there if you need it. The job offer is good for 1 week. The apartment won't last long in this market, but we can find others." He stood up, gathered everything except the bank documents, which he left in front of me. "One more thing," he said at the door. "Your mother wants to know if you'll come for dinner on Sunday. Both of you, just you and Mira. Tell Rajesh you're visiting us." You don't need his permission, but tell him anyway. Keep things simple for now. After he left, I sat on the couch staring at those bank documents for almost an hour. My name in bold letters, my account, my choice. That Sunday, I told Rajesh I was taking Mira to my parents' house for dinner. He barely looked up from his cricket match. Sure, tell them I said hello. Be back before 9. I have an early meeting. Just like that. No questions about why he wasn't invited, no curiosity about whether I needed anything, just an instruction about when to return. My mother opened the door before I could knock, sweeping Mira into her arms with the kind of desperate love that grandmothers specialize in. My father was cooking, his famous chicken curry, the one he made on special occasions. We ate slowly, talking about everything except the elephant in the room. They asked about Mira's development, my work, simple things, safe things. After dinner, when Mira was playing on the living room floor, my mother sat next to me and took my hand. "Whatever you decide," she said, "we're with you. You're not alone." You've never been alone. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear that until I was sobbing into her shoulder. Over the next week, I moved slowly, carefully. I had the new bank account app on my phone, hidden in a folder Rajesh wouldn't think to open. I called the consulting firm and had a phone interview. They offered me the job on the spot. I asked for 2 weeks to think about it, though I already knew my answer. I started documenting things. Every time Rajesh made a financial decision without consulting me, I noted it. Every time his mother called asking for money, I noted it. Every time Mira needed something and we couldn't afford it, I noted it. I wasn't planning a divorce, not yet, maybe not ever, but I was planning an exit route, just in case. Because that's the thing about drowning, you don't always realize it's happening until someone throws you a rope. And once you feel that rope in your hands, once you know rescue is possible, you can't pretend the water isn't over your head. Rajesh noticed something had changed, though he couldn't quite identify what. "You've been quiet lately," he said one evening while I was folding laundry. "Just tired," I said. "Is this about your father's visit? Because I thought we'd moved past that." "We." He kept using that word, as if we were a unified force, as if my silence was agreement. "We haven't talked about it," I said carefully. "There's nothing to talk about. He overreacted. Things are fine." "Are they?" He looked up from his phone, frowning. "Are you saying they're not?" This was my moment. I could bring up the account, the job offer, the apartment. I could tell him that fine wasn't good enough anymore, that I needed more than survival, that Mira deserved more. But I wasn't ready yet. I needed more time, more certainty, more courage. "I'm saying I think we need to talk about how we manage money," I said instead, "about making decisions together." "We do make decisions together." "Do we? Or do you make decisions and tell me about them?" His face hardened. "You know what? I'm tired of being made to feel guilty for taking care of my mother, for being a good son. Not everyone abandons their parents when they get married." "I'm not asking you to abandon anyone. I'm asking for transparency, for partnership." "You want partnership? Fine, let's talk numbers." I pay $1,500 a month to my mother. That's about 20% of our combined income. The other 80% goes to rent, utilities, food, baby expenses, and savings. Is that transparent enough? That's 40% of my salary. It's 20% of ours. But I don't get to decide how any of it is spent. Because I manage the finances. That's my role. Your role is to... "To what?" I interrupted. "To work full-time, take care of our daughter, manage the house, and never question where my salary goes? To trust your husband, to support your family, to not make everything a battle." "I'm not battling, I'm asking." "It feels the same." And there it was. To him, a wife asking questions felt like a wife waging war. I folded the last of the clothes and stood up. "I'm going to take a shower." In the bathroom, I locked the door and sat on the edge of the tub, trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. I pulled out my phone and opened the bank app. $5,000. My name, my choice. I sent a text to my father. "I want to take the job." His response was immediate. "I'm proud of you." 2 weeks later, I started at the consultancy. The first day felt like putting on clothes that actually fit after years of wearing things 2 sizes too small. My new supervisor, Priya, was sharp and kind, the kind of woman who asked about your weekend but also held you accountable for your work. She had 2 kids and a husband who apparently did pickup duties without being asked. She made it look possible. The salary went into my new account, my account. For the first time in over 2 years, I saw my paycheck and knew exactly where it was. I didn't tell Rajesh about the new job for 3 days. When I finally did, I framed it carefully. I got an offer from another firm, better salary, more flexibility. I accepted it. He looked up from his dinner, surprised. When did this happen? Over the last few weeks, I've been interviewing. You didn't tell me? You didn't ask about my work. That landed. I saw it register on his face, the realization that he couldn't actually remember the last time he'd asked about my job, my day, my anything. Well, he said after a moment, that's good. More money is good. We can increase what I send to Ma. No. The words sat between us like a stone. No. The new salary is going into a separate account for Mira's expenses and emergencies. That's ridiculous. We have a joint account. Everything goes there. Not anymore. His face cycled through confusion, anger, disbelief. You're keeping your salary separate? What kind of marriage is that? The kind where I can buy formula when my daughter needs it, I said quietly. The kind where I don't have to ask permission to feed my child. This is your father's influence. He's turning you against me. He's not turning me against anyone. He's reminding me that I have value, that my work matters, that my daughter should come first. My daughter comes first. Show me, I said. Show me in the budget. Show me where she comes first. He couldn't. We both knew he couldn't. I contribute to the household, I continued. I'll transfer $1,000 a month for rent and utilities. That's more than half of those costs. The rest of my salary is mine to manage. And what about my mother? What about her? She needs help. Then help her with your salary. Not mine. You're being selfish. I'm being a mother. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You know what? Do whatever you want. Keep your money. See how long this independence lasts when you realize how hard it is to manage everything alone. I've been managing everything alone, I said to his back as he walked away. I'm just getting paid for it now. He slammed the bedroom door. Mira startled in her high chair, her lip trembling. I picked her up, held her close, and felt something like relief flooding through my chest. I'd done it. I'd drawn a line. The next few weeks were tense. Rajesh alternated between cold silence and frustrated lectures about duty and family and selfishness. His mother called repeatedly, asking why her money had been reduced. He told her the truth, that I'd taken my salary back. She called me directly. Beta, she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Rajesh tells me you're having some confusion about finances. No confusion, Ma, just clarity. You need to understand that family takes care of family. I raised Rajesh with nothing. I gave up everything for him. And now, when I need a little help, his wife decides she's too important to contribute? I'm contributing to my own household, to my daughter. Your daughter will be fine. Children don't need much. But a widow alone, struggling to pay rent, that's where Dharma requires. Ma, I interrupted gently, I respect everything you did for Rajesh. I do. But I have my own child now. She's my Dharma. She's my responsibility. And I'm going to make sure she never goes hungry again. The silence on the other end was heavy. You've changed, she said finally. Marriage was supposed to make you a better person, but you've become hard, selfish. I've become a mother, I said. Maybe that looks the same to you. She hung up. That night, Rajesh told me his mother cried for an hour after our call. He told me I'd hurt her. He told me I'd hurt him. He told me this wasn't the woman he married. You're right, I said. The woman you married didn't know her worth. Now she does. Something shifted in our marriage after that. Or maybe something that had always been broken just became more visible. We lived parallel lives in the same apartment. Cordial, functional, but not connected. He worked. I worked. We took care of Mira in shifts. We split household chores through tense negotiations. But something else happened too. I started sleeping better. I started eating better, real food, protein, vegetables. I could afford to because I controlled my money. Mira had everything she needed. Her formula was always stocked. Her clothes fit. Her doctor appointments were never a financial anxiety. I started existing again, not just functioning. 3 months into my new job, Priya took me out for coffee after a client meeting. We talked about work, about strategy, about the campaign we just landed. Then she said, "You seem different than when you started." Different how? More present, like you're inhabiting your own life instead of watching it happen. I felt tears prick my eyes. That's exactly what it feels like. Good different? Terrifying different, but yes, good. She nodded. I left my first marriage for similar reasons. Everyone told me I was giving up too easily, that I should try harder, that marriage requires sacrifice. And they were right about that last part. Marriage does require sacrifice. But it should never require you to sacrifice yourself. I'd never said the word divorce out loud, not even to my parents. It felt too final, too nuclear. But hearing someone else acknowledge that it was an option, that people survived it, that there was life on the other side, it made something possible that hadn't been before. I don't know if I'm there yet, I said. You don't have to be, but you should know you could be. You could survive it. You're already surviving. That conversation stayed with me. At home, Rajesh and I existed in a cold war. He took Mira to his mother's house every Sunday, pointedly not inviting me. I used those hours to see my own parents, to paint again, to remember who I'd been before I'd become small. On one of those Sundays, my mother and I were in her garden while Mira napped inside. She was repotting herbs, and I was just sitting, letting the sun warm my face. "You look healthier," she said. "I am." "Are you happier?" I thought about it. I'm less miserable. I don't know if that's the same as happy. It's the first step. "Mama," I said after a while, "do you think I'm being selfish, keeping my salary, drawing boundaries?" "Everyone makes it sound like I'm destroying my marriage over money." She set down her trowel and looked at me directly. "Let me ask you something. If Rajesh was keeping his salary from you, if you and Mira went hungry while he supported his mother, would anyone call him selfish?" "No, they'd call him dutiful." Exactly. But when a woman demands basic dignity, basic resources, basic respect, suddenly she's selfish. Suddenly she's not trying hard enough. Suddenly the marriage failing is her fault. So what do I do? You already did it. You drew your line. Now you live with the consequences, whatever they are, and you teach your daughter that her mother knew her worth. Mira turned 2 in July. We had a small party, my parents, Rajesh's mother and brother, a few neighbors. Rajesh and I presented a united front for the day, smiling in photos, cutting cake together. But I saw my father watching us with that same look from my wedding day, seeing what I was trying to hide. After the guests left, after Mira was asleep, Rajesh said, "We should talk." My stomach tightened. "Okay, this isn't working," he said, not angry, just tired. "This living arrangement where we're roommates who share a kid, this isn't marriage." "What do you want it to be?" "I want it to be how it was, before you changed, before your father interfered, before you decided you knew better than me." "I didn't decide I knew better. I decided I knew myself." "It's the same thing to you." Maybe he was right. Maybe knowing yourself and disagreeing with your husband did feel the same to him. "I can't go back," I said. "I can't be that person again. She was disappearing. She was starving in every way that matters." "So dramatic," he muttered. "Our daughter was hungry, Rajesh. Our daughter. That's not drama. That's fact." One time, and you've made it into this whole... It wasn't one time. It was every time. Every time you chose your mother over your daughter. Every time you prioritized your family over this family. Every time you took my money like it was yours to give away. It was our money. "Say that again," I said quietly. "Say our money and actually believe it. Because if it was our money, I would have had access to it. I would have had a say. I would have been a partner instead of a dependent. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What do you want from me?" "I want you to see me, to see Mira, to see that we matter more than your mother's approval. I want you to understand that providing isn't just about paying rent. It's about making sure your child never goes to bed hungry. It's about respecting your wife enough to make decisions with her, not for her. And if I can't give you that, then we both know this isn't working." It wasn't a declaration of divorce. It was an acknowledgement, an honesty we'd been avoiding for months. "I need to think," he said. "Take your time." He moved to the couch that night. He stayed there for the next week. During that week, something interesting happened. Rajesh's mother ran into financial trouble, real trouble. Her landlord was selling her building, and she needed to move. The new places she looked at were more expensive. She needed a deposit, first month's rent, moving costs. She called Rajesh, sobbing. He promised to help. Then he came to me. "I need a loan," he said. "Not a request, not a partnership discussion, a need." "From me?" "From us, from our savings." "My mother needs help." "Your savings," I corrected. "I don't have access to that account, remember?" "This isn't the time for petty revenge." "This isn't revenge. This is reality. You wanted separate finances. You got them. Your money is yours. Mine is mine." "She's going to be on the street." "She's not. She has a son who earns a good salary. She has another son who can get a job. She has options." "You're really going to do this? You're going to let my mother suffer to prove a point?" "I'm not letting anything happen. I'm not responsible for your mother's housing. You are, and you have the resources to help her. But you've been giving her my salary for 2 years. Now you'll have to use your own." His face went red. "You're cruel. You know that. Actually cruel." "I'm clear," I said. "There's a difference." He ended up borrowing money from his brother, who apparently had been saving without contributing to their mother's expenses. The irony wasn't lost on me. Rajesh's mother moved into a smaller apartment, 1 bedroom instead of 2. She raged about it, about how her ungrateful daughter-in-law had caused this downfall, how modern women had no respect, how her life would have been so much easier if Rajesh had married someone traditional. Let her rage, I thought. Her opinion of me couldn't be lower, and I'd stopped trying to earn approval I'd never receive. In September, I got promoted, senior consultant, $5,000 a month. Priya told me I'd earned it, that my work was exceptional, that they were lucky to have me. I celebrated by taking Mira to the aquarium and buying her an overpriced stuffed octopus that she immediately loved. We ate lunch without checking prices. We bought ice cream. We existed without anxiety. That night, I told Rajesh about the promotion. He nodded, said congratulations in a flat voice, and went back to his phone. No celebration, no pride, no acknowledgement that his wife was succeeding. That's when I knew for certain. This marriage wasn't broken. It had never been built correctly in the first place. In October, my father visited again. This time, Rajesh was home. The 2 men sat in our living room with an awkwardness that would have been funny if it weren't so sad. "I wanted to check on everyone," my father said diplomatically, "see how things are going." "Things are fine," Rajesh said. "We're managing." "Are you?" My father looked at me. "Beta, are you managing?" I could have lied. I could have protected Rajesh's pride, maintained the performance. But I was tired of lying. "We're living in the same apartment," I said, "but we're not building a life together. We're not partners. We're not even really friends anymore." Rajesh's jaw tightened. "You're telling your father our private business?" "I'm being honest. That's different than gossip." "You've turned her against me," Rajesh said to my father. "This whole situation is your fault. She was fine before you interfered." "She was hungry," my father said quietly. "Her child was hungry. That's not fine. That's never been fine." One day, and you've destroyed my marriage over it." "I didn't destroy anything. I just held up a mirror." Rajesh stood up abruptly. I don't need to listen to this. This is my house. It's her house too, my father said. She pays for it. You need to leave. I'm going, my father said, standing slowly. But before I do, I want to say something to you. He stepped closer to Rajesh, and though my father was shorter and older, he somehow seemed larger in that moment. You took a woman who loved you, who trusted you, who worked hard and gave everything she had, and you treated her like a resource to be exploited. You took her money and called it sharing. You took her choices and called it leadership. You took her dignity and called it duty. And when she finally found the courage to stand up for herself and her child, you called her selfish. You don't deserve her. You never did. But she's not trying to be deserved anymore. She's trying to survive. And that's what I'll make sure she does, with or without you. He kissed my forehead and left. The silence after the door closed was absolute. You humiliated me, Rajesh said finally. In my own home. He told the truth. That's not humiliation. That's just uncomfortable honesty. I want a divorce. The words hung in the air. I'd expected them to hurt more. Instead, I felt something like relief. Okay, I said. Okay? That's it? Just okay? What else is there to say? You want out. I'm not going to fight you. You're not going to try to save this? What would I be saving? We don't have a marriage, Rajesh. We have a financial arrangement and shared custody. That's all we've had for a long time. He stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the woman he'd married really was gone, replaced by someone who knew her worth. You'll regret this, he said. Maybe, but I don't think so. The divorce took 6 months. In that time, several things happened. Rajesh moved out into a bachelor apartment near his mother's place. He took his things and half the furniture. I kept the apartment, kept Mira most of the time, and settled into single motherhood with a surprising ease. My salary covered everything: rent, daycare, food, clothes, savings. For the first time in years, I could see my bank balance growing instead of mysteriously depleting. Rajesh paid child support, not generously, but adequately. We split custody 50-50 on paper, but in reality, he took Mira every other weekend and one evening during the week. He was a decent part-time father, just not a partner. His mother stopped speaking to me entirely, which was honestly a relief. Vikram got a job finally. Entry-level, but a job. The family's financial pressure eased once they weren't supporting 3 adults on one income plus my ghost salary. My father never said, "I told you so." He just helped me move into a new apartment, a 2-bedroom near my parents' house with a small balcony where I set up an easel. He helped paint Mira's room yellow, her favorite color. He installed safety locks and built her a bookshelf. My mother taught me to budget properly, showed me how to invest, helped me plan for Mira's future. She took Mira one afternoon a week so I could have time to paint or read or just exist as a person separate from being a mother. I started therapy, worked through the guilt that kept whispering that I'd given up too easily, that I should have tried harder, that divorce was failure. My therapist, a patient woman named Dr. Rena, helped me see that leaving wasn't failure. Staying in a situation that required me to keep shrinking would have been. You didn't destroy your marriage, she said during one session. You survived it. Mira adjusted better than I expected. She was young enough that 2 homes felt normal, not broken. She had her room at my place and her room at Rajesh's. She loved both her parents, neither more nor less for the separation. At work, I thrived. Priya mentored me, pushed me, believed in me. I took on bigger clients, bigger campaigns. By the end of the year, I was being considered for a director position. "You've come so far," Priya said one day over coffee. "I finally got room to breathe," I said. "Turns out I do pretty well when I'm not drowning." She laughed. "You do more than well. You're exceptional." I started dating eventually, casually, nothing serious. But it was nice to remember what it felt like to be seen, to be chosen, to sit across from someone who asked about my day and actually listened to the answer. I bought a red string bracelet from a small shop near my apartment. The woman selling them said it was for protection and luck. I wore it not for superstition, but as a reminder. I'd protected myself. I'd created my own luck. Mira turned 3. We had a party with balloons and cake and all her little friends from daycare. Rajesh came, civil and polite. His mother didn't. My parents came early and stayed late, helping clean up, being the village Mira needed. As I put her to bed that night, she looked up at me with those eyes that were mine and said, "Mama, happy?" "Yes, baby, Mama's happy." "Good," she said, satisfied. She hugged her stuffed octopus and closed her eyes. I sat next to her crib for a while, watching her sleep. This child who'd been hungry once, who'd been caught in the middle of adult complications, who was now fed and loved and secure. I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago, silent, shrinking, convinced that patience was the same as love. I thought about the moment my father had asked that simple question, "You earn 3K, why is your child hungry?" That question had cracked something open. It had shown me a truth I'd been avoiding, that being a good wife shouldn't require being a bad mother, that loyalty to a marriage shouldn't mean betrayal of myself. I thought about Rajesh, proud and certain that giving my salary to his mother was righteous, how he'd said it with his chest, like it was proof of his good character, how he'd never once considered that maybe, just maybe, his daughter mattered more than his mother's comfort. I didn't hate him. Hate requires energy I didn't have to spare. I just felt sad for him, for the man who'd lost a wife and daughter because he couldn't see past duty to devotion, past tradition to truth. But mostly, I felt grateful. Grateful for my father's quiet intervention, grateful for my mother's steady support, grateful for the job that gave me independence, grateful for the strength I'd found when I thought I had none left. I looked at my reflection in Mira's bedroom mirror. I looked older now, but also somehow younger, like I'd aged and de-aged simultaneously. The exhaustion was gone from my eyes. The tension was gone from my shoulders. I looked like someone who slept through the night, someone who ate real food, someone who took up space without apology. I touched the red bracelet on my wrist. In the living room, I made tea and sat on my balcony. The city hummed below, lives intersecting and separating in patterns too complex to track. Somewhere out there, Rajesh was probably with his mother, both of them, nursing grievances about the ungrateful woman who'd ruined everything. Let them. Their stories about me weren't my responsibility to correct. I had my own story now, and it was mine to tell. He took what could be counted, my salary, my effort, my pride, but I kept what couldn't, truth, dignity, and the quiet peace of knowing who I am.